This is Aaron Kozbial, the professor of comedy, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Awesome. All right, Professor, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Like I said, when you walked in the door, I should have assumed that you dress the way you always dress with a bow tie and a jacket.
Yeah, well, I mean, dress for the role you have in life.
I guess if they're going to call you the professor, you should always look like a professor.
You should.
Yeah.
Actually, when I first started doing stand-up comedy, I wore a tux for every show.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you have one? You bought one?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in high school, I was in 3 choirs and an orchestra.
Oh, okay.
So I had 2.
Oh my God. Okay. Man, I think it's an ordeal to rent one, and you own 2.
Yeah, own 2.
Nice.
And then I was doing a showcase at Zanies, and the guy who books Zanies asked me, "How many professors do you know wear a tux?"
That's a good point.
I was like, that is a really good point.
Yeah.
And so then I just went to Tweed and kept a bow tie.
Wow. Did you grow up around here?
Yeah, I grew up in Maumee.
Oh, awesome. Okay. When did you graduate from there?
2003.
Oh, same year I graduated from Perrysburg.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I didn't realize we were the same age.
I did not know that as well.
I knew you knew my sister.
Yeah.
I don't know. How did you meet my sister?
I met your sister because so I grew up here.
Mm-hmm.
I moved to Chicago for school, and I was moving back here to save up some money to eventually go to LA.
Okay.
And I was working at a coffee shop downtown and met her there.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you when you were in high school, when you're at Maumee, you said you're in orchestra, you're in a band.
Yeah, 3 choirs and an orchestra.
Cool. Yeah, okay.
Orchestra plus speech and debate and the musicals, and
So being on stage doing something is just something you always liked.
I'm way more comfortable on stage than off.
Yeah.
Because on stage, that everyone wants to hear you speak.
Yeah.
And off stage, you're just guessing.
You know, I never thought about that. You're
Yeah.
right though. Like not everyone wants this person to tell them this story right now.
Because I'm off stage, I'm still consistently joking.
Okay.
But I'm just guessing that they're gonna hoping that they're gonna laugh at puns.
Yeah,
And if they don't, then I just hope that there's a cosmic audience that's enjoying the scene.
Yeah. So because I whenever I see you, it's always been at clubs or at shows or
Yeah.
whatever, and you're Aaron, and that's how I always know you as. And is this how you are all the time? Is this you, or is it like you just turned up a little bit when you're on stage?
Me turned up a little bit,
Okay.
but not much.
Okay. All
It's there's this, and then there's a sleep, Aaron.
Okay, got it. Well, I
And then
like
there's
that.
listening and just then I can shut up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I like that. I like when you the person you are on stage. Even me, I'm always me, but it's the same thing. Like when I'm on there, you got to be more of you because you got to put on a show, right?
bit,
So you can't just be you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're back to high school. You were in all these things, always on stage. Like you said, you're more comfortable there.
Yeah.
Even when you were a little kid, you were like that too.
Oh, I started doing theater and improv comedy when I was 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so I
Just kept
doing it. I moved to Chicago when I was 19 and studied at Second City, Improv Olympic, Annoyance Theater in Chicago, sketch and improv comedy.
And when you were younger, your parents were all about it. Like, hey, whatever you want to do.
I come
whatever
from a
makes sense.
theater family.
Okay.
They're super supportive of theater.
Yeah.
They grew up watching musicals. We would go see the plays and musicals that the high schools would do. And,
Okay.
my older sister was in musicals, and yeah.
So it was just maybe it was assumed oh, Aaron's going to do this. So if you would have went the other way, hey, I want to play all these sports. I love sports.
I mean, That was elementary school, Aaron.
Okay,
sure.
all right, yeah.
But I was terrible. Like I was in Little League, but
Okay.
they put me in right field because statistically, that's where the ball's least likely to go.
Yep. Yeah. You know what? I know that because I'm a huge sports guy, and so it was a tough thing to stomach when my son played second base this summer, but also played right field.
Okay.
And I know, like, well, they put him there because he's a big kid. He's a little bit slower, so if the balls go that way, you know, like you said, it doesn't happen all the time. So that was a hard thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know why they put him out there, but you still made a team. You're still on the team. Right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I was on the Little League Yankees. I was like, oh yeah, I'm like Babe Ruth, but I can't hit. Pop fly right to the pitcher.
Or I'm in right field because I can't catch either.
Yeah, nope.
But you did it because you liked it, right?
Yeah. I liked it for what it was worth, and then I found theater, and I was like, oh, the ball's not coming at me anymore.
Yeah. This is a little safer.
This will not hit me in the cup.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I love when parents, you know, obviously your parents were, like you said, were the whole theater family.
Yeah.
So if it's not, I don't want to say like niche because theater's a big thing, but if your family's all one way and your kid wants to go this way, you know, sometimes it can rub parents the wrong way, or they're like, you know, try to push their kids, you know, a certain way.
Yeah, I'm sure my parents would have supported me if I would have gone the sports route too.
Yeah.
But there was no talent in that direction, so they were like, "Oh, sure, go ahead, try your best, son."
But they were there.
They were there.
They're watching you.
They're very
field.
supportive people. So.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That lets kids and lets people do, you know, whatever they want to do without thinking like, this is who's gonna tell me that I have to stop.
Right.
You know?
Nobody told me I had to stop, which made me weird.
Weird. I don't think that's the word.
Weirdness brings laughter.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess if you can call yourself weird.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, like my idol growing up was Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah. So what's you call yourself weird? What's the weirdest thing about you?
Oh,
I don't even know if you've ever thought about that.
I guess all I have are stories of like the weird things that I do.
Okay, well, let's hear one of those then.
Okay, so when I was living in Chicago, every April 1st, I would dress up as a jester and I would walk around the city with a rubber chicken to celebrate my comedic heritage. And also to remind people that it was Fool's Day.
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh, yes. And then also tourists love taking pictures with me and my rubber chicken named Peter.
Peter the chicken.
Peter the rubber chicken.
Oh, my. Yeah, that is pretty weird.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I would see that if I would see that. And I'm sure more people just walked by you.
Oh, yeah. People walked by me. Kids loved it because I would have like fake conversations with Peter. Like, squawk. Yes, Peter.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll get into more of those stories, weird stories too.
Yeah.
So you go through high school, do all your stage stuff. After when you're winding down your senior year, did you know like, hey, I'm going to Chicago?
Yes.
Did you know that right away?
I promised my parents I would do a year at Owens.
Okay.
Before I moved to Chicago, just to get some of the basics.
Yeah.
They're like, well, in case you decide you want to go the actual college route, to get some things that could transfer. So I did that. And
I like that because do you think I went to Owens after I went to BG for a year, wasted my money. I tell kids all the time, like, make sure you know what you want.
Yeah.
You know, because I wasted money and then I went to Owens, finally graduated there. Do you think that was beneficial for you to go to Owens for that first year?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it was good to like. I mean, it was like a buffer zone between high school and moving to Chicago.
Yeah.
And like something my parents wanted me to do, and
Yeah.
I had no problem going and doing like a year before I did what I want. Also, like I know for some of the programs in Chicago, they require like post high school like acting and stuff.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Like a year of that.
Did you do any of that stuff at Owens?
Yeah. There was some theater classes.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I also tried to learn tap, and that went. I learned flat ball change. And that's about it.
Is it just because you don't have rhythm, or what?
I know one dance, and that's the waltz because I was the Prince and Cinderella.
Oh, okay.
Any other dancing is just guessing at my point.
Okay. So you hit Owens for a year, then you're off to Chicago. Did you move there by yourself?
Yep.
Man, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah. Well, I was supposed to move with a guy.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, I'm coming with you. I signed my name to a lease on an apartment, and then he was like, nope, I'm not going.
No.
And I was like, I don't care. I'm still going
Yeah.
because this apartment was great.
So were you counting on him to like help with rent and all that stuff, or
I was sort of counting on it,
Yeah.
but it was a studio. Like we
Okay.
were just planning on living like a dorm style or like studio with a roommate. It was in Lincoln Park, which is like 10 minutes away from Second City, 20 from Improv Olympic. So it was smack dab in such a beautiful place, and it was like just $635 a month, all utilities included, which is amazing for that area and Chicago. Because I looked it up now where I lived, and it is $1,200 for my that apartment.
Oh my,
that
double.
I had. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So when you found this place, you're like, yeah, this is
This is perfect because it was all utilities included, which means I didn't have to call anybody and be like, hey. I would like to sign up for all of your utilities.
Which in itself, if you've never done it, is terrifying because after you're done, you're like, did I do it right?
Yeah.
And then you got to hope that your electric and your water everything works because you signed up correctly.
Yep.
And usually there's a transfer, so then you're waiting that month and like, okay, make sure I get this bill. That's like the one time you want bills. Like, did I do this okay?
Yep. And then I didn't get any bills. I just paid my rent.
Yeah, that's cool. Especially moving out for the first time. That's another like talk about Owens being buffer. That apartment with utilities included. That's another like you're still taking steps up.
Yeah,
but they're like little steps as opposed to like, man, I gotta move out and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So as you go to Chicago by yourself, do you end up getting a roommate or do you just stay by yourself?
I got a roommate like about 6 months in, but so I started working. Found a job downtown in a Macy's. Well, it was Marshall Fields when I started, and then like 1 year later, Macy's bought them out.
Okay.
And
what were you doing there?
Starbucks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That was fun in itself. Like I actually worked there the entire length I was in Chicago, because I turned it into a 9 to 5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like Monday through Friday. I was like, that's great. I can do comedy and I can work at Starbucks.
Yeah.
And I actually at one point they were coming up with an instant coffee via instant coffee, and so I wrote a parody song for it. I put it on the internet. Like it sort of like went up the corporate ladder, and the CEO visited my Starbucks, and I got to sing it for him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we were just a franchise, so like for a CEO to even come, like, I'm pretty sure like the reason why he came was for my song.
Yeah. Did anything come of that, or he besides him showing up?
No, I mean, I gave him my card. It's like, I do corporate events.
Yeah.
And I never heard anything. But
that's awesome though. That's cool that you could use your job as like another, like, oh, I want to do this thing with it. You know?
Actually, so it was inside of Macy's, and there's like a little food court area, and every Christmas, they would have me go out and just sing Christmas songs for people. I obviously told them, hey, I sing Christmas songs. Can I just go out there and sing? And they were like, sure. So it's kind of like being paid to sing.
Yeah. That's why. Well, I do. We took a little hiatus from the Metro Parks, but I do Metro Parks podcast, and that's the same thing too. Like I've always wanted to be paid to do a podcast, and that's what I'm doing at work. You know, I get to podcast, and I still get paid for it.
Excellent.
So it's fun.
One of my favorite authors is Terry Pratchett, and one of the quotes of one of his books was, "What every artist really wants deep down is to be paid."
Yeah. Yes. When I first got my when I got my first money for doing comedy. I think it was probably like $20 or whatever,
Yeah.
And I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This knowing that it's a paid thing, it also made me want to like do better because they're paying me to do it as opposed to like an open mic or whatever. You know, you always want to do your best, but this is like, oh, I gotta make sure I'm up there for 5 minutes. I gotta make sure all.
Did I bring half the audience? Yes, but did they give me $20? Also, yes.
Yes. So that happened at Keith Bergman did a short-lived show at the Colada at the mall.
Okay.
In their library, like the little library room, and that was the first time I was a feature, so I got to do 20 minutes. And that was basically all the time I had. So it was awesome. I got $100 for that show. And the same, like, it was full. Again, half the people were people who knew me.
Yeah.
But if that gets me, Keith thought I did good enough where he could, pay me to do the show. But he also knew, like, hey, he's from around here, he'll bring people, which I did. And I think that's part of my job too, bring people, right?
Yeah.
But it was awesome. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah. And plus, like, the more you get to do, like, those 15, 20 minutes, then 30 minutes, then you know that you can do it.
Yeah.
And you can keep doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, open mics are fantastic, but until you find, like, those little showcases that let you, like, put those little, like, 5-minute bits into, like, a cohesive package.
Yes. Yeah.
That's when you start to, like, build who you actually are as a comic.
Yeah. And that's the cool part too, is you take the 5 minutes from this open mic and the 5 minutes from that open mic, and you're working on those constantly. And they're like, man, I got 7 minutes out of those 10 minutes that are good now, and then you keep building on that. And that was tough to learn at the beginning because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. And
but it was cool once it came together. And here's a little bit of money for this cool thing you're doing.
Yeah.
So when you're in Chicago singing Christmas carols, working at Starbucks, you didn't go there to go to college. You went there specifically for Second
I
City.
specifically went for comedy.
Okay.
Because all I really deep down want to do is make people laugh and be happy. That's all I want. It's what I've wanted since like third grade. I used to be a super shy and quiet kid.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Up until probably shortly after I graduated from high school. Like, it took me a while.
Yeah. For me, it was seventh grade. I developed so in third grade, I saw somebody be a class clown. You know, those people who have it naturally, and it could just be naturally funny and make make people laugh. And I was like, I really wish I could do that. And when I was 10, I started doing theater and improv, and this idea just got pounded in my those epiphany ideas to build the person you want to be and then be him, like you're building a character. Because I mean you're 10 years old is between elementary school and middle school.
Okay.
In Mommy. So you can basically reinvent yourself. So I was like, oh great. So I was like, I'm gonna find out who I want to be. Obviously, I was watching all the old comedy. I was obsessed with cartoons and comedy, like the old Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis movies. And
for a 10-year-old to say I'm gonna reinvent myself or be this other person, it seems like a crazy, because that's that's only in the movies that they say that.
Yeah,
but
no, it was
that's weird. That's crazy.
It just came to me I wasn't into girls yet, but I was I'd seen enough Disney movies to know what was going to go on. So I and I was super obsessed with King Arthur at the time, as you do when you're 10. So I actually went online and I looked up the rules of chivalry and art of courtly love.
Yeah. Wait.
What? I was which is just how you're supposed to treat people.
Okay,
your code of conduct for to be a good
as a 10-year-old.
person.
You do this. Okay,
as a 10-year-old, super into Arthur, in the ideas of trying to be a good person to other people.
Okay, yeah,
and I was a nerdy kid.
That's all right.
Who just saw people because obviously you grow up, you know about heroes and villains, and you're like, why would anybody want to not be good to each other?
Okay.
So I was like, I want to learn what that means to be like a good person. So
you got
so like good people have codes.
yeah, that is very true. Any movie you see,
Any movie, like you there's like a line that you cross, and I mean just something that I like when I was like going through the list of like chivalry. Like years later, I went back to the like just to prove to myself that I had done that when I was 10. I found the website.
Oh, really?
Now it's defunct.
Yeah.
But like it hadn't been at that point.
Okay.
So I was like, yes, this happened. This isn't just a story you kept telling people. There's this website.
Yeah.
Then I like copied and pasted. I posted it in my MySpace, as was the style at the time.
Yeah.
And then like when Facebook came, I copied and pasted. I put it as like those notes that used to exist on Facebook.
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to always just have this as a reference.
Wow.
That
like I said, as a 10-year-old to want to do other stuff, and it, like you said, it turned out well. Like you did these things, and you're the person you are because of how you wanted to change at 10.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and then at some point I became the professor, which isn't a name I gave to myself.
I was going to ask you, is being the professor, was that something? As you got older, like this is what I'm gonna be, or was that another thing when you were younger? Like, oh, this is a cool thing.
So
well, I guess if someone else
how
gave
it came to be, and like I'm not employed by any specific university.
Yeah.
But I do call myself an on the road scholar, and sometimes colleges pay me money to do stand up there. So I was like, and so that's good.
Yeah.
So that's the professor.
Wait, did you say on the roads scholar?
On the road scholar.
Okay, all right.
Traveling teacher of making jokes of math, science, history, and philosophy.
Well, I should have expected a pun with on the road scholar and road scholar. So yeah.
Yep.
So how did your name?
So I started. So I didn't start with stand up. Like I actually didn't grow up watching stand up. It was never something I even thought about ever doing because I was like from an improv background.
Yeah, and that was all that's from Second City.
Right? And so short form, long form improv. And then and in improv, they teach you to perform scenes to the height of your intelligence. And then...
Wait, what does that mean exactly?
That means, like, treat the audience like they're smart and they will rise to the occasion.
Got it. Okay.
Because you can just, like, do, like... Because if you treat the audience like they're dumb, they're gonna know like you think that they're dumb.
Okay.
But if you treat the audience like they're gonna get all of your references, and like know who you are as a character, then they're more likely to know. So I was running an improv. So I had taken over producership of an improv show that used stand-ups as hosts. So there would be like 2 or 3 teams doing their various improv sets, short or long form. And then just stand-up would do their 10-minute set up front, do little bits between the shows, between the teams. And sometimes the stand-ups would cancel on me.
Oh, no.
So I had to start writing jokes. And so since I was from that improv background, perform to the height of your intelligence, I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll write jokes to the height of my intelligence.
Yeah. So you became a comedian out of necessity for your shows.
Yeah, stand-up out of necessity.
Yeah.
So I just started like just telling jokes about my life that were like, and because I'd always been making puns. Like I love jokey jokes.
Yeah. My son has a kid joke book, and those are sometimes like, oh, okay, whatever, and some of them like you weren't expecting it, you know.
So and so like I started writing like these like math puns and science puns, and and then like just telling, like integrating that with like stories from my life.
Yeah.
Because I was a nerdy kid, so it's pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Like, my first joke I even still use, like, when I was growing up, I wanted to be, and I saw Back to the Future, so I wanted to invent the time machine. So every day I would go outside and I would wait for myself to bring myself the time machine. And I never came. Which is a true story of my life, because I assumed that's how time travel worked at the time.
You're just someone else made it, then they'll come back and get you.
Yeah, and obviously I never came.
Yeah.
Every inaction has an equal and opposite reenaction.
So when you became a stand-up, like I said, out of necessity.
Yeah.
I've never done improv.
Yeah.
It seems very difficult. Is it a difficult thing?
It is. Did you when you were in elementary school? Did you ever play pretend?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's that. Okay. It's literally just that. It's just like, so in improv, whatever you say exists. Like, if I say that I have a glass of water, I have a glass of water. Mm-hmm. If I say I have the elixir of life, I have the elixir of life. You have powers just shy of God in an improv scene.
Okay.
And it is building a reality with somebody else and just agreeing with whatever the other person says.
Is that what people call yes anding?
That's what yes and means.
Okay. Is there pressure to? Because the only improv I know is comedic improv.
Yeah,
I'm assuming there's other kinds of improv?
There is other kinds of improv. There's two kinds of improv. There's two major kinds of improv. There's the short form improv, which is like whose line is it anyway, and then there is something called long form improv, which is getting suggestion, but then basically doing a play.
Okay.
Or just like a montage of scenes that all have like a collective theme. One of the things I used to be part of, like a 2-person improv team called the Perspectives. We would get a question from the audience. Mm-hmm. We would have an intellectual debate about like what we thought the answer of the question would be, and then we would be literally the most surreal scenes ever. Like we were father and son chicken. We were the wall and the floor.
Really?
We were like two molecules. Like the reason why I love playing with him, Caleb Mancy, and he was like, he was my season partners. We ended up like writing a show together, and it went up at a theater for like a couple weeks.
That's awesome.
It was the best time because like he got that like because when I do improv, that's also when I can be weird, and like I like doing scenes where I'm not human because I've been a human. I've seen human interactions. I want to explore what other things exist.
Yeah.
I want to like I don't know. Like you can do all the things you see from superheroes. You can do the things you see from fantasy because everything you say in that instance like becomes real.
Yeah.
At least real to you. And then we would always like wrap around and we would analyze the scene that we had just done and try to find the answer from that scene. Like, okay, so our first show that we did, we got the question of why.
That was it?
That was just the question. Just why. And so we had our debate, and our show ended up being just like we were in one universe, and then we were in like an opposite universe, and we would go back and forth between the two opposite universes. We came back around at the end, and we discovered the only thing that existed in both of those opposite universes was love. So it's like, oh, why? Love. Okay. Great.
Okay. All right. Wow.
It was.
It seems terrifying to me because especially the improv where you get input from the audience, because as stand-up you don't usually want input.
Yeah.
Because here's my things I want to do. So improv, you need that.
You need that. But like an improv audience like understands their role in everything.
Yeah.
Like they understand that they're there to give these random random like ideas or like questions or just random objects or random periods of time.
Yeah.
And you prompt the audience like, hey, can I get a suggestion of blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. That's what the terrifying part for me is, because like, God, my kids are going crazy. It could probably show up on the mic.
Oh, I just assumed that you had Tyrannosaurus Rexes upstairs.
They are,
because I did notice
the water.
The water.
They,
I was like, oh, okay. There's just I mean, I see a shirt that says Grizzly. I was like, oh, okay. He has grizzly bears. Obviously, he's gonna have dinosaurs as well.
Yeah, my daughter does gymnastics, and she's always doing cartwheels and trying to do back handsprings and bend all this stuff. So she's always jumping around. My son is probably just sitting on the couch just watching her. But yeah, that's probably her flipping around. She loves that stuff.
That's awesome. See, like find what you love to do, and then just do it.
Yes,
find what you love and do it.
That's what I coach high school football, and that's why I always tell kids. One of my things I love doing during the season is I'll make it around to all the seniors, and I always ask them, "What are you doing next year? Are you going to school? Are you playing sports? What are you doing?" And then I ask them like, "Well, what are you going to want to go to school for if that's what you're doing?" And then I ask them why. Like, it's something I've always liked, or I like doing this, or my parents do this, and I like watching them do it. So that's a thing, like you said, like find something you do and do that.
And yeah, like you note as a coach, like find the thing that like your team knows, find why they love it, and just like make them love it more.
Yeah.
Like, and that's because that's the thing when you're kids, like you'll find out what you love, and either like you will get pulled in an entirely separate direction, and maybe that's good, and maybe it's not. But also, if you can just find out what you're passionate about, like every kid like learns different, loves things differently, like because I mean I did theater. I know lots of people who loved doing theater who never graduated high school, and they just they didn't do it again. But they had fun during the time. But like they had found something, like because when you're at that age, like you get to love so many things.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like just try it all, especially when you're young. You know, as parents, I think I probably said it here before. As parents, for our kids, we put them in everything. Like, hey, at least give it a try. You know, and we can see as parents, and then they can see as themselves doing it. Like, oh, this is fun or it's not fun, and we'll continue on this way.
Yeah.
But we got sidetracked a little bit because my Tyrannosaurus Rex is up there. Right. We're jumping around. So the thing I was saying about improv. It's terrifying to me because I have all my ducks in a row as far as comedy and jokes and my stories, but then to add the extra element of like, what do you want us to do?
Yeah, it's just like you.
It's like crowd work, right?
Yes, but it's just like at the end, you're just making emotional choices and making up a character on the spot. Okay, so I've always had this idea. That emotions are a choice made in the moment that information is given or information is recalled. And so if you know the sort of character you want to be, then you can make your own choices whether you remember some information or you get a suggestion. And like that works on stage and off stage, because I mean, when if I said Peter died, and you could have one or two reactions, either oh man, I loved Peter, Peter was great, or fantastic. Because you can, finally, Peter, I thought he'd never go.
Well, yeah.
Or I must save him.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing in real life. Like you find out something, and you're either like, there's so many emotions you could be, so my goal in life is to, as I mentioned, was like to make people laugh and be happy. Like, so my idea, I'm a bit of an emotionalist. I do think that happiness and joy, love is like the best. Like, I think those are better emotions than other emotions. I sort of strive in my own self to like always make like emotional choices like that might get me closer to that. And it's always been just like sort of like it's a theory from that I've just like made up from improv. Like oh yeah, it's the same, and it's just pretend, and all of your choices become valid and real, just like in real life. Like when like you're deciding like how you feel before any sort of football game. Like that's why pep talks work.
Yes.
Because like you're giving people an extra emotional choice to like reinvigorate themselves, like go out there. Like they might have their themselves stuck in their head, whereas like they can sort of make the choice from your pep talk to like just be in the moment and realize all the choices they make.
I never thought about it like that because I know I like doing that, even if it's when I was a freshman coach and I coach the JV now. Even if it's like, hey, I got 15 seconds before this game starts. Just listen to me real quick. But it is kind of whatever's in your brain kind of cancels out for these few seconds. You listen to this pep talk, and then you're out there with a clear mind. Now I'm worried about this play or this football game or whatever. But I never thought about it like that. Yeah. I just thought like, hey, these kids like to hear a few words from this guy.
Yeah, because they can just like make the choice again, to reinvest.
Yeah.
Okay, so in long form improv, like the scene like can last 20 minutes. Like you're that character for the entire 20 minutes, making emotional choices, and like so if the scene feels like it's kind of dragging, you have two choices: is to like give up and let the scene die, or reinvest, try to find some way to reinvigorate the scene. And that I assume is the same for sports.
Yeah.
Like you're just trying to reinvigorate the scene.
Well, it's like that'd be like at halftime. Like, hey, this game, if the game's not going well, we got to figure out another way to. We got to figure out a way to get this going in our direction.
Yeah,
you know? And that's where another pep talk or coaches meetings and that kind of stuff at the halftime. Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Yeah. Like I was also into football sort of. So I don't know if they did. Did you also go to like elementary school around here?
I grew up in Toledo.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved to Perrysburg when I was 14.
Okay, cool. I don't know if they have this happened to you as well. So when I was in elementary school, I don't remember which grade, they sort of split the class between who loves Ohio State?
Oh,
and
sure, yeah.
Who loves Michigan? You go to that side of the room, and you go to that side of the room. And so I didn't know either of the teams, but I didn't know what a Buckeye was, but I did know Wolverine was an X-Men character. I was like, oh, great. I'm going for the Wolverines because of X-Men.
Yeah.
Because the cartoon was on at that point.
Sure, yeah. I don't know because I didn't like either. I don't remember what I chose. I mean, I just went with whatever my best friend went at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Now, of course, I know that Buckeyes are delicious chocolate over peanut butter. So
which one would you pick now?
Well, I mean, if I'm hungry, Buckeyes.
Oh man. So, do you still kazoo? Yeah, he's pulling it out of his pocket right now. So my wife asked me who the first guest was today, and I said, "Oh, it's Aaron, no, Professor." I don't know if I was like, "I think you remember him." Remember he used to have that joke where he'd go out and he'd say, "Excuse me, do you mind if I?" And then she goes,
"Do you mind if I kazoo?"
Kazoo, yes.
Because I know so many people like to go out and smoke.
Yeah,
which is. Like true as a comedian, like they all like to go out and smoke because like, oh, okay, I've got a kazoo.
Where did that come from?
So my last name is Kozbial, so the only piece of merchandise I have now are these kazoos. They say kazoo, and they have like a little bow tie, and they have like professorofcomedy.com on it, and it's like a Professor Kazoo.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Those are synonymous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you just decide one day, like, I'm going to do this kazoo joke?
I am a bit of a, like, so I love music comedy. So I knew I wanted to just like at least pepper some in.
Okay.
And not I mean I wouldn't go like full like all my things are music because like I grew up and I was in orchestra and I played the bass, and playing the bass in comedy only works for one of the Smothers Brothers. It's not something you can like play your music to and sing. So I needed a better instrument, and this is a magic instrument that literally knows whatever note you want. It's easy to play. It's easy to like just pull out of my pocket.
Yeah,
and I get to make the cool cigarette joke.
So now that's it was great.
It's like born out of a pun and silliness.
Yeah,
which is
your life.
Yes.
Puns and silliness.
Puns and silliness.
That was great when I asked if you had a kazoo and you just pulled it right out. So that's
like you never know when you need a musical accompaniment because I also burst into song in real life. Okay. Like if I'm just hanging out with people and somebody says something, I will sing. I will also hope that other people sing with me, but don't care if you don't.
Yeah, so that's a big risk you take there.
Yeah, it's like it's like when you're on stage, everybody wants to hear you speak.
Yeah.
Off stage, you're just guessing, but I still say it anyways.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna guess more people want to hear you speak than maybe hear you sing.
Oh no,
right?
Like I'm decent. You know?
Well, I'm not saying you're a bad singer. I'm just saying in life, people just don't bust out.
People don't expect to be in a musical until they hang out with me.
And that is your life.
And then like they get to and like some people like will join it. Like it's like anything. Like some people will join in, some people will just enjoy it, and some people will be like, I hate musicals.
I'm not a huge fan of musicals. But I appreciate them. Like my wife and her mom and sister go to Phantom of the Opera every year.
Nice.
And they asked me one time if I want to go. I go, it's not my jam. Same thing with like concerts. I don't like concerts. I like music. I listen to music, but it's just I don't know. I just don't like it.
Any concerts?
I mean, I've been to a few when I was younger. Like I like the Used and the Taste of Chaos tour. I went to there. I saw Taking Back Dashboard Confessional at BG.
Okay.
I don't know. I'd rather just, if I want to listen to music, I'll just listen to it. And I guess part of it is all this music I listen to is older, from where I listened in high school. So those bands are still together, but I like Taking Back Sunday. I like one of their first CDs that came out. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. I don't know.
Eventually they'll be all doing the same thing that
the Rolling Stones are doing.
They'll all be doing like reunion tours. As they age, they'll be like, this is how we make our money.
Yeah.
They're not putting out new music. They're just doing your favorites.
That's what I want.
And your absolute favorite will be their encore.
I thought about the Used is in Columbus, and I thought about going to that concert. It's on a Saturday, which it works out well for everybody. And then and part of it is just like, I mean, part of it is COVID.
Sure.
But I mean, you still have to show vaccination records, all that stuff. But then part of it is like, I mean, I'll have fun. And I know I'll have fun if I go.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It's just like losing yourself in enjoyment. Like I've really only been to like a couple concerts just because like I grew up listening to like oldies and like 50s and 60s era, like 93.5, and then like more oldies than that, like Sinatra era.
Okay.
And then
so those concerts don't exist.
They don't exist for me.
Yeah.
So the only concerts I really went to growing up is Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah. I liked him too when I was younger. Me and my friends listened to him a lot.
He puts on the best show. Clips, costume changes.
Really?
Like it is a performance.
Okay.
That is
all right. Well, I can see that from him. Because all the, I mean, he is parody.
I mean, other people just sing their songs.
Yeah.
He puts on a show.
Nice. Is he still touring? And
he still tours like every so often. Like basically whenever he releases an album, he does a tour, and I generally go.
He was on a podcast I listened to called the Endless Honeymoon Podcast with Moshe Kasher and Natasha Leggero. But he was on there, and that's cool. I don't know if you ever heard that podcast, but people will call in and have usually it's relationship issues, and then they like try to solve them funny.
Okay, great.
They make fun of them, but also try to help them. It's pretty cool.
That does sound great.
Yeah, I listen to too many podcasts. The one that immediately came to mind when you started talking about improv and how you're like, sometimes I want to be a door or this, whatever. There's a podcast.
Oh, I've been human this whole time.
Yes, yeah. There's a podcast called Everything Is Alive, and it's a host, and he interviews Dan the chair. Or Mike the dartboard or whatever, and it's all improv. So when he's asking them questions and they just come up with these answers, and it's really cool because then you're really thinking about, man, like, is that what my toothbrush thinks or whatever? You know what I mean? It's such a cool podcast, and one of those like, man, I wish I would have thought of that.
Does your toothbrush like its job?
Yes,
or is it like when you used to watch the Flintstones, it's like, it's a living.
yeah. But it's an awesome podcast. So you
That
check.
sounds fantastic, actually.
Some of the ones I like the most are, I don't notice it until they talk about it, but are improv ones where sometimes you can tell. Because at the end of one, it's called Mission to Zix. It's about space and all these weird creatures and stuff, and at the end of each one, they'll do like bloopers or when they're working through stuff or whatever. But as you're listening to it, they might say something and somebody else laughs but continues what's going on. And you're like, oh, man, that made that person actually laugh. But they got to stay in character and keep continuing doing what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely breaking.
Yeah. But everybody seems to love that, though. There's YouTube channels dedicated to that kind of stuff.
Improv is the most supportive thing by necessity. Because if you don't support your scene partner, the entire thing falls apart. Because if I say, hey, Joe, and you're just like, I'm Edward. That's you might get like a little chuckle, this person doesn't know you said, but you've just denied your scene partner, so he doesn't know how to continue on the scene because you've just taken all the control away from him.
Got it. And it shouldn't be a fight up there,
right? The worst thing, so the reason why I love playing with Caleb is because if I made an initiation of a weird scene, he wouldn't make me crazy or retarded, because when you deny somebody, you're either gonna make them if you come in as a bird and you think it's great, and the other person says, Uncle Joe, why don't you stop being crazy? You're like, well, I was a bird, but now I guess I'm Uncle Joe who thinks he's a bird, which is great, but now you're playing a crazy person. And when that happens, you don't get to have as much say in the scene.
Well, because now it's all up to the other person.
Yeah, the other person has taken away all the control.
Yeah.
So you're not building something together, you're just in the other person's scene.
Yeah. Ugh, has stuff like that happened to you?
Oh yes, because I like to play weird, and other people don't know. There's some improvisers who just don't know how to handle that. I was going through improv classes at IO in Chicago, and there was a game called Protecting the Freak by one of the best teachers, Susan Messing, and it was just learning how to deal with somebody throwing you a curveball, in a scene, something outside of normality. Because some people thrive in that, but other people won't know what to do, and that's something that person should learn in improv in life.
Yeah, there's always curveballs in life. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's when you brought up that story, it reminds me of when Michael Scott did improv on The Office and how he always had guns, and they're but then the other characters went along with it because that's what you're supposed to do.
Because that's what you do. And so an audience of improv who goes to see improv all the time knows how supportive improv is like that. Yeah. And that's one of the things they generally enjoy about improv is because it's all supportive like that.
Yeah.
And there is supportiveness in stand-up, which, I mean, you probably know from doing improv around here, the scene is fantastic about
Yeah.
that. But like, yeah, it's just
and that's one thing I like about it too. Like not starting, or when I started comedy, I was just like, hey, I'm going to do this. But then like meeting other comedians and hey, you should come do my show, and or I have this open mic over here, and like having a community, like you're saying, it makes it more comfortable, and you can try new things, because most of these open mics are you and the other seven comedians, and that's it.
Like,
you know,
I did like Grumpy Dave soon after it came back from COVID.
Yeah.
And Grumpy Dave's brilliant plays. Always
It's
like
awesome,
support.
yeah.
Like gave like 10-minute hugs to like several comedians. Like, oh my god, I haven't seen you so long.
Yeah.
Are you vaccinated? Awesome.
Yeah.
Me too. Just like so much hugs and so much love, and that's I think that's one of the great things about this scene is that we're all doing it because we love it.
Yeah.
And we love the people around us. We love the audience, and
it's all love.
yeah, that's see that's so that means that that scene I did with Caleb way back then. I was like, oh, okay, yep, that's right. Why love?
Well, where can people contact you if they? I know you said you had a website.
I have a website, professorofcomedy.com.
I'll put that in the show notes too. People can click on it there.
Fantastic.
What are you up to nowadays then?
I don't have like I've just been doing Grumpy Daves on Tuesdays.
Okay.
I mean, COVID hit hard.
Yeah.
I was supposed to do 4 days at Indiana Comic Con.
Oh man.
In 2020 was like my year to start doing like conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, and I was like, that was everything. I was like, yeah.
Set it back.
That was a big setback.
Yeah.
And now it's just, now that everything's trickling opening back, like there's not as much like, because so many like places went under.
Yeah,
like,
it's not as much to offer.
there's not as much to offer, and there's still the same amount of comedians.
Yeah, yeah.
So all like trying to get a spot like right away.
Yeah.
And there's
Isn't there? Yeah.
it isn't there as much. So I'm just trying to like, reach out. Find more shows.
What I can say is I've always enjoyed when you were at a show watching you, and it's great just having you at shows, because it's such positivity. Because sometimes comedy can be negative, or you're always talking about what you did horrible or whatever. So, whenever I see you, I know it's gonna be positive. I know I'm always gonna laugh. Not just the stuff you do on stage, but the stuff you do off stage. You just make the room feel better. You make me feel better. So. And now I get to start my Sunday feeling good because you were here. So,
awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thanks to Aaron Kozbial for being on the podcast today. For a self-proclaimed weird kid, he did excellent on this podcast. Get some great insights on why he does certain things, or why he went the path he took. So it was a great interview with him. Thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, Pearsburg Junior High STEM Lab, and Big Daddy Graphics for helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.